What's up, YouTube? Bay Area Baller back again, and I'm excited. I got one of my best friends in this world on the show with me. I've been talking basketball with this guy for damn near 20 years, at least 15 years. We go way back, and that's my boy Daniel Hackett. I call him DHack. What's up, DHack?
What's up, big baller? Chilling. Almost there to the week.
I know we're a week away from this.
We go back all the way to the Ike Diogo years.
To the Ike Diogo. You were higher on Ike Diogo than I was. I remember when the Warriors made that pick, I said, Dan, he's kind of small. He's like a tweener. And I remember you were an Ike Diogo guy.
You know, he was an All-American. He can rebound. He could play in the post. He was like a small ball center. You know, he was before his time.
That's true. Ike was ahead of his time. Before we get to this NBA draft that's coming up, I want to touch on just the playoffs and the finals real quick because, man, there were a lot of good games. I really liked this NBA playoffs. I thought it was a lot of fun to watch. And I know you spent some time in the Wisconsin area. Correct me if I'm wrong, Marquette University. That's in Wisconsin, right?
Yeah. Milwaukee, for sure.
No kidding. So you were in the heart of it. So what do you think this championship is going to mean for that city since you've kind of been there and witnessed that firsthand?
So I left the year Giannis got drafted, and I was high on Giannis because he just looked good in that Greece league. But this is big for them. I mean, they haven't been this hyped, I don't think, since like the Monte Ellis, Brandon Jennings era, and before that it was Michael Redd. So this is big for them. Probably not as big as the Packers winning the Super Bowl, but it's up there.
No doubt. Well, lately, as you know, I've been doing a lot of football content. So while I've been watching some NBA and college basketball a little bit, I know you've kind of picked up the steam on that. And that's why I said, you know what, DHack, I got to get you on my show because we're a week away from this 2021 NBA draft. I've been trying to check out these prospects, and I think you might have a little bit more detail than I do. So without further ado, I'm going to share my screen here, and we can pull up some of these names. Up top, right, the consensus guy from what I've heard and what I've read is Kade Cunningham. Do you see him as the clear-cut number one prospect in this draft?
I think he's the safe number one. We're probably going to look 5 years from now and say, there was somebody a little bit lower that ended up being the best of the best, but you can't go wrong with Kade. He's got it. I watched a few of his Oklahoma State games, and he's got all the tools. But what I liked about his game is that he had some clutch shots that won some games. So he's got that it factor. So you can't go wrong at number one. But 5 years from now, we're going to look back, and there's going to be someone in the top 10, maybe top 15 that are like, dang, why didn't they go number one? But that's the draft. You got to go with the safe bet, and Kade's got it. He's got everything in his bag. But I can't see why the Pistons wouldn't take him number one.
Absolutely. I've been checking out Kade Cunningham, and the jump shot is there. He can pass. He's a playmaker. What I will say is he doesn't have those super quick twitch feet. You know what I mean? If I'm looking for a slight knock, which it's hard to knock him because he's a really talented prospect, but he doesn't seem super twitchy in terms of like the quick twitch. But he is 6'8", so I mean,
he's got that Doncic feel to his game where he's not twitchy, but he plays it so smooth and plays within his body. And I've seen like highlights of him when he was like in 8th grade, and that's how he was. He wasn't twitchy then, but like he just has the moves that are kind of that old man game where it's like you can't teach it. So that's just who he is. You can't go wrong with him. And I think the Pistons would be fools if they passed on him unless they trade back. And I think there's going to be a lot of trades in this draft just because it's really messy after the top 5. So I think we're going to see a lot of trades, teams moving up or teams moving down just just because it makes more sense than trying to reach on someone, or if you don't feel in love with anyone, why not move back and get some assets or some draft capital? And there's some teams out there that have so many picks that they could package a few things. Like the Thunder can move up from 6. So I can see a few trades happening.
Oh yeah, the Thunder have just been stockpiling so many of these draft picks. I mean, they could move practically wherever they want if they wanted to dip into that bag. But let's move to the number 2 guy. As you know, we've pulled up the NBA Draft Net mock draft. I go way back with this website. It gives me like a nostalgic feeling just kind of being on NBADraft.net because it's like we've been on there for a long time, DHack.
It's old school when it's got the .net. So it's been around. It's the true NBA draft junkies first place to go. There's a lot of new ones that are on the up and comer, and I like what every one of those big publications have, but NBADraft.net, first place you got to go.
Yeah, some of the comps, you got to laugh at some of the comps. I think they had like Deshaun Stevenson's comp was Michael Jordan. So it's like sometimes I think they've gotten a little bit better in that regard. But like we said, that's my go-to site just for checking out mocks. But I want to move to the number 2 guy because this player really gets me excited, and that's Jaylen Green.
Jaylen, Fresno. So, he's a California guy. And, I've watched a lot of his tape, him playing at Fresno Memorial, him playing at Prolific, him playing for the USA and the Philippines, the AAU circuit, and he's a bucket. He's a freak athlete for his size. He definitely needs to bulk up, but even he says it. If he went to college, he might be number 1. So that would be the only person that I think like you may take if you're the Pistons and you're not going to take Cade. But I think it's a little bit more of a mystery, and his ceiling is super high, but his floor is a little bit lower than Cade. So definitely a good pick. I could see him being a 20-point scorer in a couple years, maybe even faster than that. So like he's good. And I've known he's been good for a while since high school.
Yeah, you know what? I could see this guy averaging 25, potentially maybe 30. I mean, 30 points, you're an all-star. But I think he has that to his game. Very prolific scorer, athletic, will dunk on you, has that silky smoothness to his game. I wouldn't comp anyone to Kobe Bryant, but this guy, Jaylen Green, shows me flashes where it's like, whoa, that it looks like something that Kobe did.
Right. And I seen the Kobe comps, and that's a good comp. One thing I think about with Jaylen is that, like, he may not have the body that you're really in love with, but he's got the athleticism, and he just knows how to hoop. He's got that LaMelo Ball type vibe where it doesn't matter what team he's on, what the situation is, he's going to get his. He's going to make himself look good on the court, and hopefully his teammates as well. So he's definitely 1B out there. And it's just interesting because he went the G League route. So we only got 13 games, and he busted Nico Mannion a few times in that bubble. But, yeah, you would hope to see some more higher comp games outside of those 13 bubble games.
No doubt. I'm excited for what Jaylen Green's going to bring to the table. But I want to move to this third guy because I want to hit on a lot of these guys. And this is where, to me, I got like there's 3 guys in that tier 1 for me personally. And Evan Mobley's rounding out that tier. I think this guy's so exciting. He's 7 foot. He moves. He has a silky smoothness to his game. Very coordinated, can finish with both hands. Evan Mobley at USC, I'm rocking the Wiseman jersey, DHack. And I know my boy DHack, when we took Wiseman, was like, Wiseman's cool, but I think we should have took Ball. That's what he's been telling me since day one. And I tried to fight him on it for the first probably 6 months or so. I was like, no, Wiseman, man, Wiseman. And then it got to a point where it was hard to deny that LaMelo Ball definitely had the superior rookie season and potentially looks like the better prospect in the long run. But I still believe in Wiseman. I think Wiseman's going to be good. But anyway, that's besides the point. I had to throw in that nugget. But back to Evan Mobley. DHack, let me know your thoughts on Mobley.
SoCal Hooper. His brother's good. He's been good for a long time. Very fundamental, and his body, for being a skinny guy, it's a good looking body of work that he kind of puts together. There was times where I was like, is Mobley better than Wiseman at this point in time, looking at Mobley's USC tape? I think he's a high-end prospect. I don't think you can go wrong taking him in the top 3. It just matters on the fit and how you're going to use him. I've heard people saying that he's more of a big wing versus like a true big man, which is surprising, just knowing kind of like where today's game's going. And he's 7 foot, and he can play in the post if he really wants to. But yeah, he's definitely top 3. I think he can fit with all 3 of those top 3 teams. Cleveland, I think, would probably be the best for him just to get run right away and kind of have that spot in the front court really solidified. But he could,
yeah, because Houston has Christian Wood. Christian Wood and Mobley. Okay. All right.
Just because Mobley can take his game outside a bit, but it would be a better fit in Cleveland for sure.
All right. I love that. Now let's move to the Gonzaga product. Man, I thought these guys were going to go undefeated and have an undefeated season, DHack. And we're talking Jalen Suggs. And Jalen Suggs, I got a player who he reminds me of. And let me know what you think about it. And that's Brandon Roy. I see some Brandon Roy to him. But besides the point, what do you think about Jalen Suggs, the Gonzaga product?
Hey, first off, Jalen Suggs, if he was playing football, we'd be talking about how good of an athlete he is as a football player. He's just a stud athlete. I really thought Gonzaga was going to win it all. I'm kind of a little salty because I had Gonzaga winning it all, and I was first in my draft pool, and they blew it in the Baylor game for me. So that one digs a little deeper. But my question for Suggs is he truly a point guard, or is he more of a shooting guard? He's 6'4", so it doesn't really matter. He's got good size, and
he's strong.
Passes. Very strong. He's a football player. He's strong.
He's quick as hell. When I see this guy in transition, he's explosive. He's quick. He's good at finishing the jumper, DHack. And I know philosophically you hear this that NBA players can improve their jump shot, right? It's something that I've heard, and I don't totally buy into it. You know, I sometimes I feel like kind of you are what you are. You can shoot the rock or you can't. Not to say there aren't guys who don't improve their jumper, but Suggs, he doesn't have a bad shot. A little bit streaky, but what do you think about Suggs as a shooter?
That's probably the one area he needs to work on the most. I think he can really develop in being a good shooter. For me, I think he's the one pick that if I was the Warriors, I would go up and get him because he would fit in right away, and he would be an immediate beneficiary of having Steph and Clay next to him to hide that shooting, and he can still do his thing. But for me right now, like, he's definitely top 5 talent in this draft class for sure. It just depends on where he goes because Toronto could be a good place, but he's going to have to work with Van Fleet, and if they bring back Lowry. And then Orlando, like, he's top 5 that I feel like Orlando has to take on if he's there. But it's just a mystery of that, like, whole backcourt. You got Fultz, you got Cole Anthony, RJ Hampton. I just don't know how.
That's a crowded backcourt.
Super crowded. So, like, I think he's a good prospect, but I feel like a team might move up to get him because he'd be a better fit for someone else outside of these, the Raptors and maybe the Magic. And, that's where I see a trade happening. If it doesn't happen with the top 3, it's someone moving up to get Suggs, and I would hope the Warriors would explore it, but I don't know if they're going to have the capital or the guts to pull that move off because I think it's going to cost a little bit more than we usually expect.
What makes it more attractive though for the Warriors is we do have 2 picks in this draft. So while 7 and 14, I mean, I don't think that even gets you up to 5. Maybe that can get you to 6,
Yeah.
but maybe up 1 spot, you know what I mean? But I don't think it gets you up 2 spots. It's just not how it works in the NBA. But
No.
yeah, so I want to move to the next prospect, and he was another elite. What was it? The Walnut Creek, the G League elite.
Ignite.
Thank you, DHack. Jonathan Kuminga. And he's a guy, man, he's a tantalizing prospect, DHack. He's got the size. He's got the athleticism. He plays above the rim. And I remember watching the G League game where it was the Ignite versus the Warriors. It was early on in the G League bubble. And Kuminga was dropping dimes, threw a nice bounce pass between a couple guys. And that was a part of his game I didn't know he had. So I was like, I knew he was this athletic prospect, you know, who was dunking all over dudes, but he was dropping some dimes. That was like, oh, okay. But let me know, what do you think about Kuminga?
Man, I think he's Andrew Wiggins all over again, where he's got it on tape. You get excited. You could make a case that he could be the number 1 prospect, but there's just some situations where you kind of scratch your head and like, are you that elite? So he's definitely developmental. I know there's a lot of rumors of him slipping in this draft into the Warriors, but I think he could play right away. I just don't think you're going to see the true ceiling of Kuminga until he's in a system that can really develop him for a few years. So he's definitely worth it. I just don't know if teams are going to wait for that. And he's another one of those guys that like he needs to be in the right fit and situation. The Thunder, like in their whole rebuild, like it might work out really well there. But I do have concerns that coming in right away, he's going to have games where he's going to look like a 20-point scorer, and then games where he's going to look lost on the court sometimes just because he's 19. He's still young. So that's my thoughts on him. I know he's the most tantalizing prospect that could drop to the Warriors, and the rumors is that he's slipping down boards right now.
So if you're Bob Myers, do you pull the trigger if he's available, or are you eyeing another one of these prospects?
I think Bob Myers won't pull the trigger because he's Bob Myers, and you know he's got the credibility to not pull the trigger. But I think from a pure asset, you got to take him. He's more enticing to flip versus some of these other guys, but I don't know how beneficial he would be day one in the Warriors system. I think he's going to have a big learning curve. And he might have a Wiseman year, you know, where we'll be frustrated at times. And that's the big concern, is that the window is closing. I know us Warriors fans don't want to say that, but the window is closing. The thing is Kuminga could keep the window open if he really figures it out 3 years from now, 2 years from now.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's where he does feel a bit of a project, a little bit to me, kind of like Wiseman, but it's like the payoff could be astounding. But I want to move to this next player coming out of Florida State, and that's Scotty Barnes. And when I watched Scotty Barnes, DHack, who I've been cramming for this one, right? Like I said, I've been watching a lot of NFL, but I want to watch more NBA and get these prospects in. So I was watching some Scotty Barnes. DHack, it feels like this player is just built from like the 80s. Like he's an old school 80s player. He can do it all. Give him like the high socks. That's all he needs. And maybe like the long sideburns. And this dude is straight out of like NBA Jam.
Yes. Scotty. So first off, Scotty went to high school with Cade and Moses Moody and the UNC big man. So that team was stacked. And so he got a lot of exposure. And I think what was crazy is when he went to Florida State, they pretty much put him at the point guard role. And he wasn't a guy that had the ball too much. Hell of a competitor. Defensive side of the ball, like he's competing. He's the type of guy that's working for that last-minute shot and going pretty much putting everything on the line, like we saw with Giannis in the playoffs, where he was doing everything possible to make sure that they got a bucket. I honestly thought he was the perfect Warriors fit. But he's just rising up these boards right now. 3 months ago, he was top 10, and that would have been perfect for the Warriors. But now I could see him going top 4 just because he's got the size, he's got the mentality, and he does things that you really can't teach because he's just got it embedded in his like mindset of how he is as a basketball player. And Florida State guys, they know how to play defense. They're really solid on that end of the court, so you know what you're going to get day one from him. Honestly, the Cavs would be not shocking if they took him top 3 because he would fit in so well in that system and be kind of like a missing link there. But I don't know how high he's going to go up on the boards. The Raptors could also take him. I think he'd be a good fit there. So as much as I want him to slip to the Warriors, I don't see him getting down to number 7.
I know, man. That'd be the perfect fit. Scotty Barnes, he can do it all. The jump shot might be the only thing that is still developing, and we'll see how far that can develop. But he does literally everything else.
Right. Everything else. And to your point earlier, you hope you can develop some shooting, but he'll come in and make an impact day one on that team. Second rotation, you would feel his presence. But I think one of these other teams are gonna take him because he's been moving up these boards really quickly in the past month and a half or so.
Yeah, I'm seeing that too, and I'm getting that vibe. All right, let's move to the 7th player in this NBA draft mock draft. That's the Warriors pick, and they have us taking the UConn product, James Bouknight. What do you think about this guy, Bouknight?
Bouknight's a New York Hooper. He can get a bucket in a multitude of ways. And what I like about his game is he's kind of got that FU type of game where he's pissed all the time. And I think he'd be a really good fit on the Warriors simply because he adds an element that I don't think we have. Someone that can get to the bucket, someone that gets to the line really easily.
And he'll dunk it on your head, DHack. This guy will dunk it on your head. I want some of that.
He's got a little Zach LaVine-esque to his game, but I feel like he's more of a Jordan Clarkson type hot guy who could come off the bench and drop 16 points in a row. I think that's what the Warriors need. I wish he was just a little taller. He's like 6'4", and he'd be, I think, like really good at 6'6", 6'7". But you can't get everything. So I think that's the type of pick. Feels very much like a duplication of Jordan Poole, but we need more playmakers on the Warriors. So he's my vote for the 7th pick if this kind of is the order as it's going. But I'm hearing that the Thunder are hot on him. So that's where I think if Kuminga slips, it's because Bouknight's moving up boards.
I see where you're going there. Okay, and we talked about Bouknight's athletic. I seen him bashing on some dudes. This next guy, DHack, is set like the vertical record from what I understand. If I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong. But Keon Johnson out of Tennessee, this dude's got insane burst.
Yeah, he broke that vert record. Super athletic. I'll be honest, I haven't watched too much tape on him. He's definitely more of a developmental type prospect. I don't think you're going to argue that he can be athletic enough to step on an NBA court and feel like he's a fit out there. But I think he's still got a lot of time to develop. He seems like he wants to develop. I think he played for Tennessee, and like he was really playing in that system versus trying to show off what he can do. And really where he was starting to show off was that combine and just showing how much of a freak athlete he is. He's a bit polarizing because, he could go to the Warriors at 7, but I've seen mocks with him dropping all the way like 16.
Okay. I don't want him at 7.
Yeah. I don't think I could take him at 7, but if he came in at 14, I could get behind that.
No doubt. And this next player is a guy who you were telling me about a few weeks ago. I remember you letting me know that you like this guy, and that's Franz Wagner. Yeah,
the Michigan guys, he's got good size. He's like a legit 6'9". His body is a little bit more developed than some of these other prospects that are a bit younger. He's played overseas before he came to Michigan, so like he's played against good comp. Outside of just the college level of the game. And he's a good defender, surprisingly. I think like people don't think he's a good defender, but he's patient on that end. He stays planted. He doesn't jump on things, so he gets these sneaky blocks. He's decent at shooting and playmaking. He's the type of guy that like he could really benefit being in a really good system and like right away step in and make an impact. I just think the ceiling's a little bit limited with him, so that's why I wouldn't take him at 7. And for me, just to jump in there around what the Warriors should or shouldn't do at 7, I think the Warriors should look to move back because there's a lot of prospects that I think fit their system that they could get a little bit further back. And I'm sure someone's going to want someone at 7 that's dropping. So Wagner's one of those guys I really like. I just don't think you could take him at 7. I don't know if he's going to be there at 14. I could see not only the Kings taking him, but the Spurs, I think, would be a perfect fit for his type of game.
Oh, the Spurs. Yeah, that does make a lot of sense. And I got a comp for Franz, and let me know if I'm off base, but I'm seeing some Hedo Turkoglu because there's a bit of playmaking. The jumper is solid, right? The size is comparable. What do you think about a Turkoglu comp for Wagner?
I like that comp. They're similar size, does have a little bit of playmaking, and like unathletically sneaky good, which Turkoglu was. You know, you didn't think he was athletic, but he could compete on that end of defense and could stay with faster guys. So I like that comp.
All right. Thank you, DHack. Let's move to this next guy, the Duke product. I know he didn't finish out the season with the Blue Devils, so there might be some red flags with this guy. I don't know. I've heard that he's kind of quit on some teams, but that's just from what I've heard. And that's Jalen Johnson. What do you think about Johnson?
Definitely heard the red flags. He's been in a few different high schools. You don't like when someone quits Duke and Coach K just because anyone that's doing that, there's usually a good reason, and it's not a great reason at the end of the day for why they're leaving. He's had some games, and I watched some footage where he looks like he could be a top 5 pick. He can board. He can play. He gets good blocks in transition. He's just a risky guy where it could be the best, like I said earlier, he could end up being the best player in this draft. And we look back and say, why didn't we take him in the top 5? But I could also see him not making the impact that he's been talked about as being like one of those elite prospects since high school. So I'm staying away from Jalen Johnson. I could see him slipping, but I could also see a team taking him early. I really wanted to buy into the idea of the Warriors taking him at 7. Just because the physical tools are there, but
they are. And DHack, what I really liked about Jalen Johnson when I was watching him is the athleticism, the size, but his ability to finish with both hands. This guy was finishing with the left in transition, full speed, and that was impressive because not a lot of players are that equipped at that early of an age at finishing with the left just so fluently.
Definitely. No, he's got it. He's got all the skills in the world. I just think it's a risky pick. Just you're not knowing what you're going to get, not only day one, but a few years from now. So I can see him going to top 10. I think I had him going to Orlando at 8 in my mock draft, but this feels like a good area where he should go. I think whatever team's taking him really needs to do their homework and understand who they're getting, not as like an on-the-court player, but as an off-the-court player. Because for everything I've heard, that's just like the big red flag is he doesn't have the most endorsements for being a player that really benefits your locker room at the end of the day.
I hear you. Now, 10, it sounds like you think 10 might be a little high for him. You think he's going to slip a little bit lower?
I think there's some other guys further down that you feel more comfortable with that could still have the same level of potential. But like that 10 to 15 range, but I wouldn't be surprised if he goes down to 20 because there's a lot of high character guys that I think some teams might fall in love with, like a DaVon Mitchell as an example.
He's coming up here shortly, and let's keep it moving. And The 11th guy that NBA Draft.net has mocked to Charlotte is Kai Jones, the Texas product. And he's a guy who I crammed. I checked him out just before we got on here. And what I saw was, first of all, he's long, right? What do they have him at? 7 foot, 6'11"? He's got to have some long arms, DHack, because this guy looks like he could be a future defensive monster.
I really like Kai Jones. I think he's only really been playing ball for like 5 years, if I saw that correctly. He's from the Bahamas. He's got really good size at 6'11". And what surprises me is that he's got a good shot from the outside. And you saw that a lot in Texas. Him taking a lot of corner threes. This is the one prospect where I guess we look back and we say, how was he not in the top 5? Just because the physical tools are all there, and he's got the type of game that this evolving NBA stretching out, taking 3-point shots really fits well in. I'm high on Kai Jones, but he's a developmental guy. So I wouldn't be surprised someone taking him in this range like Charlotte, but you're not going to, I feel like, get the true value out of him in his first year or two. It's going to take some time.
All right. I love that. I love that. I appreciate your knowledge on Kai Jones. That was a guy who I had to cram for. So let's keep it moving. And we're moving to the Aussie, Josh Giddy. This guy was playing professionally in Australia, so if I'm not mistaken. And I know he's a phenomenal passer, but what else can you tell me about the 6'8", slender build? And that is Josh Giddy.
Yeah, no, he's good. He's kind of taken the NBL by storm this year, the way that LaMelo took it over last year. And I know he's on the Australian national team, and he's not playing too much. I like his size. He's 6'8". He's still slender. He's got to develop his body, but he's a good passer. He's got to work on his outside shot a bit more. But my whole question with him is that I know he's right now listed as a point guard, but I really see him more evolving to be like a true wing in the small forward role, just because he's got the size. And I don't know how well he's going to be able to guard shiftier, smaller defenders. So I think he's one of these guys that, like, he's a point guard now, but I see him more in the Joe Ingles, another Australian type role in the small forward, but a point forward at the same time. So I really like him. I would not be surprised if Giddy goes higher than we have. The NBA draft has him right here. I wouldn't be surprised if the Warriors take him either. I really like his game, but I think he's still got a little bit of time until his body fully develops. So I don't know how much of an impact he'll be, but he'll have some nice passes day one coming into whatever system he comes into. If he went to the Spurs, that would be a perfect fit at the end of the day. Just knowing what Pop has done with a lot of those foreigners and just really getting the most out of their game, I really like that pick to the Spurs right there.
No doubt. It wouldn't be a shocker because it feels like Popovich loves those international players. All right, moving on. This is a name I see mocked a lot to the Warriors, so I'm excited to hear what you got to say about this player, and that's DaVon Mitchell out of Baylor.
Yeah, he's like the most polarizing Warriors top 7 pick prospect right now. I've been watching more and more of his game. And
when we're talking defensive monsters, my boy Ryan, shout out to Ryan, defensive monsters, that's DaVon Mitchell, right? I've heard a little Pat Beverly. I heard he's got some Pat Beverly to him.
Yeah, I think his nickname is Off Night because whoever he's guarding is going to have an off night, which is a hell of a nickname.
Oh, I like that.
I like how he's a gym rat. You know, he works on his shot. He wasn't that high-end prospect transfer. He came in as a transfer, really worked on his game. My main concern is that he's 6 foot, so 6 foot tall. You know, he's not 6'1", he's not 6'2", he's a legit 6 foot. So I just worry about taking a guy that's 6 foot. And Pat Beverly is even a little bit bigger than that. So like, he's definitely going to be a dog at the end of the court, and he's going to bring everything he's got. And I've heard arguments that if you're a short guy in the NBA, you have to have everything in your bag as too much perfection as possible. I'm just concerned about taking a guy that's short at number 7. So that's my main concern at the end of the day, is that he just doesn't have the elite size that you would hope for in the point guard position, and he's a bit older, so I'm out on him as being the Warriors' number 7 pick. 14, a maybe if he's there, depending on who they take at 7. If they take another guard like Book Night, I don't know if you take Mitchell there as well. And my other thing with the Warriors, just to add a little something extra there, if you take Mitchell, I feel like you're just basically scrapping the whole Nico Mannion experiment if you're investing there. So I just don't know if that's what the Warriors are going to do, but
and it felt like Nico kept getting better. I tried to get the nickname going, Spicy Marinara. Didn't quite take off like I wanted it to for Nico Mannion, but I'm still sticking with it. And I think Spicy Marinara, he kept improving last year, got better in the G League, came back a better player. So is a point guard, do we need to attack that kind of second point guard role? You could always shift Steph over to the 2, but I agree. I don't really want DaVon Mitchell at 7. I will say that. But I want to keep it moving because I want to touch on a lot of these guys, DHack, and I know you go deep with these prospects. Zaire Williams, he was a player I remember, you get those random like YouTube sensations that pop up on your feed when you're scrolling through at 1 a.m. and then you see Zaire Williams high school highlights pop up and you just click it and you're like, whoa, this dude's got the size. The jumper looks smooth. I remember checking out his percentages at Stanford, and the percentages were underwhelming. I remember hearing he had a good shot, but he might have shot like a below 30% from the 3-point line. It wasn't too impressive, but nonetheless, what do you think about Zaire Williams?
29% 3-point shooting at Stanford. I know Stanford had a weird year with COVID and Santa Clara and all those things. He's got great size. I think he came close to 6'10". His mid-range game is great. My concerns, though, and I'm not really high on him at this high of a level, is just because his body of work really doesn't show me that he's going to be a finisher at the rim at this time of where his game's at. So he's still raw. He needs to add some strength. And I think he settles for shots a little bit too much in the mid-range game. So I'm not high on him like others, but I know the Sierra Canyon effect has definitely got, a bunch of YouTube mixtapes out of him. I can see him being better, but I'm not as high on him as some other people might be.
Okay, no doubt. Moving on, this next guy, we're talking maybe Zaire Williams isn't that quite NBA ready. He's not a NBA ready prospect. Might need some time to develop. This next player, Chris Duarte, I know he's an older prospect, right? Played at Oregon. What can you tell me about Chris Duarte?
Well, first, he's 24, so he's definitely on the old side of things. I think he did 2 years at JUCO. He had to do another year of high school. So he's a bit older. But with that, like, his body is developed. And I do like that he's got a really crisp shot. And he competes on the defensive end of things. He's going to come in and compete day one. He's going to be a big beneficiary of spending time in the college game where his body is at a level that some of these other guys that need a few years to add some strength. But he's 24. So 10 years, he's going to be 34. I just don't know how high you want to take someone that is going to hit their prime in their rookie contract. That might be good for some teams like the Warriors. But that's the only complaint I have about him. But if he was 19, is who he was, yeah, he would be top 10 for sure, because he definitely fits that 3-and-D role really well.
I got a comp for Chris Duarte. When I was checking him out, I'm like, you know what? This guy is just going to be a shooting guard that's going to last 10 years in the NBA. And that reminded me of Courtney Lee. What do you think about that? A little Courtney Lee to his game, just a 2 guard that's just going to last in the NBA. Solid jumper, Athleticism is pretty good as well. How you like that?
I like that. For me, I had like Danny Green, more consistent shooting, but just one of those guys that is always starting, is always on a pretty good team. I think he's a good pick. The only concern is that he's 24. I mean, he's 1 year younger than Ben Simmons. So it's just one of those things you got to put in perspective when you think about how old he really is compared to some of these other prospects and even some players in the league right now.
Wow. Yeah, that's deep. That'll make you think a little bit there. So moving on to this next prospect, he's a guy who, when I started watching him, because I didn't know much about him until about 2 weeks ago, and that's Trey Murphy out of Virginia. He transferred into Virginia, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah, he came from Rice. And he's a late bloomer. I think he says it like he didn't even dunk until his senior year of high school. He was 6'3". So he's really developed into his body as being like a 6'9" player. And he transferred to Virginia, very, very strong defensive system, a system player. I really like his game as a 3-and-D. I think he shot over 40% from the three-point line this year.
He can shoot the rock, DHack. He can shoot it. And I like his form. I like his form on his jumper. I feel like it's going to translate. So he's 6'9", and you can shoot the ball from deep. I'm intrigued.
I really like him. I think he's going to be one of the better players to come out of this class to make an impact right away and hopefully get a lot better. That's who I want the Warriors to take at 14. And really the only complaints on his game is that he hasn't really fully figured out how to take advantage of his size, because he can bash it on folks, but he doesn't do it as much as you would hope. And he gets a little kind of, I wouldn't say like complacent, but being in that Virginia system, he wasn't as dominant as you would hope he would be. So I think his game would evolve at the next level, but man, he's got the tools that you would feel really comfortable investing a mid-teen pick in him.
I like it. I like it. And you know what? This next guy coming up, I love him. I'm high on this guy, and that's Corey Kispert. He's in the thumbnail because I'm a huge Kispert guy. This guy just, I feel like I watched him forever at Gonzaga. Felt like he was one of those players who just lasted forever in college, and he's always running around the three-point line, stroking it. This guy's got a beautiful jumper, and I was trying to think of a comp, and it's like, is he JJ Redick? He's a little bigger than Redick. I'm not quite as confident that he has that kind of jumper, but I think it's relatively close. Maybe Doug McDermott-y, something like that. I'm a big Corey Kispert guy. This guy can flat out shoot the rock. Not only that, I mean, when I was watching his highlights just to get a refresher on him, he has sneaky bounce. He's got some sneaky bounce, DHack, or sneaky size, one or the other, because he's dunking it off 2 feet in traffic a little bit. And I'm like, Corey Kispert, if the Warriors take Kispert somehow at 14, I will be pumped.
Yeah, you're a lot higher on Kispert than I am. I will say Kispert is an elite shooter. Like, you know what you're getting from a shooter like him. And he does have a good body size, 6'7", I want to say 220. So, like, he's got an NBA body. He's not short for his position. He's not skinny for his position. I think just the concern is just the foot speed and just, like, how is he going to match up with some quicker guards on the wings, some quicker forwards on the wing. Playing in the WCC, like, granted Gonzaga has played some really good teams, but, you're playing USF, 2 or 3 times out of the year. So you would hope for him to take advantage of it. And my only thing with the Warriors taking Kispert is I question what is the major difference between him and Justinian Jessup. Another really strong shooter, pretty average size compared to the position that he's in. And I think if you took both of them, teams are going to have a field day exposing them in the pick and roll, getting shiftier guards in front of them. So that's why I'm not sold on him going to the Warriors. But I see him going high. I would think that he would be a perfect fit for the Pelicans. Getting him with Zion, getting Zion some better shooting. around him because he's going to make some buckets from that short corner wherever he goes right away. So the elite shooting is there. I just have questions about how he's going to hold up on the defensive end, and will teams be able to scheme him out of clutch situations because they're going to put him in the pick and roll with a shiftier guard. We saw Chris Paul do that so easily with some of these players that weren't as fast as him, and he's 36. So that's my big concern on his front is just will teams be able to take him out of clutch situations because they're going to really expose him on defense.
Interesting. Well, we'll have to wait and see how this draft pans out. But let's keep it moving. After Corey Kispert, Moses Moody out of Arkansas. NBA Draft Net appears to be lower than what I feel like I've heard is kind of the floor for Moody. 18 feels low. But what do you think about the prospect Moses Moody?
I really like Moses Moody. He was on that team with Kade, Scotty Barnes at Monteverde. He went to Arkansas, and he played well there. He measured well. He's 6'6". He had like a 7-foot wingspan. He can shoot pretty well. So he's definitely a 3-and-D prospect that still needs time to develop. I think he'll go higher than this. I really like his game. I just don't know, situationally wise, he needs to go to a team where he can develop and make some mistakes because he's not going to be polished as a rookie. So I'm high on him. I don't know where he's going to go, but 18 seems pretty low.
I agree with you there. And moving to the next prospect, that the New York Knicks in this mock are taking Miles McBride. I know nothing about Miles McBride. Is there something you can tell me about this kid? Really small, 6'2", 195-pound point guard. What do you know about the kid?
He's 6'2", but I want to say he's like a 6'8 plus, maybe even bigger wingspan. And he's a dog
one of those guys.
End. Yeah, so he's short, but he's the opposite of Mitchell, where he's got the long length for even being 6'2". So apparently really good defender, playing in West Virginia. The other thing I've heard is that he is really competitive, really brings everything he's got each game. So he might be one of these guys that if we're seeing the point guard prospects that are getting taken earlier, he might have a better day one rookie year than some of these other guys. And I think it's more of a development of his offensive game. But he is physically what you want in a point guard with his wingspan, even though he's only 6'2".
Okay, so it sounds like a potential defensive stopper. Moving on, I'm going to give you these guys in groups of 3, DHack, and you can pick out a guy or two or all 3, only because the time this has been flowing smooth, and I don't want to keep you for too long, but I know we want to hit on some of these guys. So let me hit you with 3, and you can pick a couple that you want to touch on. Cam Thomas from LSU, the 6'4 shooting guard. Isaiah Jackson, the 6'10 power forward out of Kentucky. And Josh Christopher, our boy J-Mac is a big fan of Josh Christopher, the 6'4 shooting guard out of Arizona State. What do you think about these 3?
So all freshmen. I would say Cam Thomas has the game where he's going to get buckets day one. 6'4". I've heard him going higher. He reminds me of Jordan Clarkson. I haven't watched too much of his game, but I know he's a bucket. Isaiah Jackson was hyped up really, really high. He played with LaMelo at Spire. He is a rim runner, blocker, dunker. He just had a bad year at Kentucky. I think everyone at Kentucky had a really bad year. So I like him, but he's definitely a developmental big. And then Christopher, he played with Jaylen Green on the AAU circuit. His brother, Patrick Christopher, I believe, played pro for a few years. He was a big shot at Cal a while back. So he's got the pedigree. I really like his game. But all 3, outside of Cameron Thomas, Jackson and Christopher had underwhelming freshman years. So I think They could have gone a lot higher if they had really good years, but they're going to need to be somewhere where they can develop, and you can't expect too much out of them.
Okay, I like that analysis. And this next player, the 23rd player in this mock draft going to Houston, is Alperen Sengoon. And I've heard about this guy, Sengoon, out of Turkey. And let me just tell you what I've heard about. I haven't watched him, but I've listened to some podcasts and whatnot. I heard he's kind of like a Domtanis Sabonis ilk type of player where he's really skilled down low, maybe a little Vucevic action. But what do you think about Sengoon? I know some people have this guy in their top 10, creeping up towards 6 or 7. So how do you feel about Sengoon?
Honestly, I have Sengoon as a top 10 prospect in my opinion. I would not be surprised if the Thunder took him. I think the Kings might take him. He averaged 19 points, 9 rebounds, 2 assists, a steal and a block in the Turkish league. Not the best league. He's 6'9", 240. He's filled.
But it's not a bad league from what I've heard too. Was he the MVP or no?
He was the MVP. He's killed that league. He was a beast. He's got a mature post game. He's got moves where he can go left or right. He's got the finesse and power, what you see with Jokic. I really like his game because he would be an amazing pick and roll passer. He knows how to pass well. He does it behind the back passes. He can extend his range out if necessary. My thing is that he's just not going to close games. He's like a Zubac where you're never going to see him in the fourth quarter. But quarters 1 through 3, he will do some damage and expose some people. The other thing, because I've watched a lot of his clips and just have been like, wow. He draws a lot of fouls. I don't think he's going to get that in the NBA right away. But if you were to watch any clip, I would recommend watching him and Jonas Jerebko go at it. Sweden versus Turkey. And let me tell you, Sengoon was balling against Jerebko. And 2 thoughts. I was like, why isn't Jerebko in the league? He could still shoot. He would be a beneficiary on some team. But that was when I was validated and thinking like Sengoon's a lot better than the MVP of the Turkish league you may originally think. So I'm higher on him probably than NBA draft is. My only thing is that you're never going to see him in the fourth quarter because he's not meant for the fourth quarter, but he'll start games. He'll get you 8 points really quickly doing some herky-jerky moves. And he's a very underrated passer for being a big man. A little bit Vlade-like. So that's why I think maybe the Kings would take him just because they need a center. And he's killed it overseas. That why wouldn't you want to take a risk on a guy like that that's only shown really high potential with his game so far?
I love it. And you're talking about, maybe the inability for him to play in the fourth quarter, and that's because of him getting exposed on defense, correct?
Yeah, well, and you just know the Warriors really changed the league with the small ball lineup. He's not going to be able to survive against small ball lineups like some of these other bigs, but traditional big men that he's playing against, he'll get his, and he'll work really well in a system that operates passing out of the high post, just because that's a strength of his, is his passing game.
And that's really good. I love bigs that can pass the ball around and have good vision. But let me get back to the switching defenses, because you know what? Yes, it's tough for him to guard a smaller player, but when you get the mismatches the other way and you get Sengoon on a smaller player, it sounds like he's gonna punish that guy down low consistently, and that's where he could be a serious weapon in that regard.
Oh yeah, for sure. He would fit really well in the Warriors. He's like a high scoring Zaza Pachulia. Sets hard strings, knows how to roll really well. When he gets the ball in the high post, he knows what to do with it. Either go to the hoop or pass to the right open player. He would be my shocker if the Warriors took him at 7, just because of what they have Wiseman. But he's the perfect player for that type of system.
The way you're describing him, it sounds like the old Warriors center, whether it's like kind of Giddy or, Zaza or Verjao, like just bigs that can pass and have a good feel for the game. But anyway, let's look at this next group of guys because we're hitting that 55-minute mark. I don't want to keep you more. I know you're a busy guy, DHack. But when we're looking at this next batch, Nyshawn Highland, Joshua Primo, BJ Boston, this was a name I was seeing in the top 10 a couple months ago. Now here he is at 26. Any thoughts on those three?
So Highland, he balled out at the combine. Good size for the point guard position. He made himself some money by playing in the 5-on-5s. Primo is kind of a developmental guy. He was behind Moody at Arkansas. He didn't really start, but he has good fundamentals. I
heard he's super young, the youngest player in college basketball last year.
Yeah, he's young. People are saying that he'd be way higher if he stayed another year. So you're kind of just reaching for potential there. BJ Boston, the Sierra Canyon boys, I'm just not as high as some other folks. He had a very bad year at Kentucky. And he's really skinny. He's going to need to add a lot of weight to his body in order to really take the game that he had in high school to the next level. So I'm all three, I would say Primo and Boston, you're drafting for the future and hoping that you're hitting gold later in the first round. But I'm not as high as on BJ Boston as some others. I think he's a few years from being a few years before making an impact. But his game is smooth. His game is smooth as hell. It's just he needs to add more weight. He's going to get exposed by some stronger players. So that's my only concern there.
All right, I'm going to round out this first round and give you 4 guys. That's Jaden Springer, Trey Mann, Jared Butler, and Joel Ayayi. Oh, I know Ayayi out of Gonzaga. I remember checking him out, along with Kispert and Timmy. Speaking of Timmy, no Timmy love, huh?
Yeah, no love. All 4, I guess they have Springer as a shooting guard, but I have them all as just kind of like point guards, combo guards in general. Butler's the interesting one because he had that heart condition. He finally got cleared. And he was probably the better player overall at Baylor at different points and throughout the season. So all 4 of these guys at the end of the day could be really good prospects. I don't know who I would say is my favorite out of the bunch. I think Trey Mann has some good size. I think he's like 6'5". So he would probably be my favorite, but I think Butler, depending on that whole heart condition, might be a steal here later in the end of the first.
No doubt. Okay. We'll just take one. I'm going to scroll through the second round, and if you see a name or two, I don't know if you can see it on your screen, DHack, but if you see a name on here, I got to touch on one player. They got 37. I'll put my cursor on him. That's Greg Brown. And our boy J-Mac has been hyping up Greg Brown to me personally for a long time, saying, hey, check out his high school tape. Hey, check him out at Texas. And I actually had Texas going to the Elite Eight because they got Kai Jones, they got Greg Brown, they got another big guy who's also really good.
Yeah, he's picking at 42 Sims. He's a freaking athlete. All athletic team. That's what they were. I'm not high on Greg Brown at all. I thought he was going to be really good, and he got exposed at Texas. He averaged like 9 and 6 with a block. He's a freak athlete, and he's got a high motor, but he struggled. Hit a terrible assist-to-turnover ratio. I think he had 10 assists and 60 turnovers, and he got into foul trouble. That would be a guy that I think the Thunder could take a chance on, because I don't think he's really going to figure out his true impact in the game and develop his skills for another few years. He just reminds me of someone that is a lot of hype for his athleticism, but basketball fit for some teams. He's just never going to make it. So I'm not as high as some others. One guy that goes before him that I'm really high on, and I mentioned to you when Spain was playing USA, was Garuba from Real Madrid, 6'8". This dude is solid. He's thick, and he's a defensive stopper. Offensive game is not there at all right now, but you see him matched up, and he has the size to compete. And what I really liked about his game that I think is like an underrated thing to see, he's guarding big man, but I saw him picking up full court on point guards too. So he's
got that lateral quickness. You think he's going to be able to keep up with some of these guards at the NBA level? Because that's the new thing, right? You want mismatches. Get your most ball dominant scorer switched onto a slow-footed big. But you're saying Garuba kind of a loony in the way Looney can keep up with a lot of these guards. Garuba's bringing that to the table.
More so, he's athletic as hell. He's strong. He blocks well. He's going to come in and be a really strong defender day one. His real limitation is that his offensive game is so far behind. So not be surprised if he's an all defender very soon. His limitation is, what does he do with his offensive game? Is he going to be a Ben Simmons where you really don't trust him and you're going to leave him in the corner because you know he's not going to make a shot? But he's going to make his money on defense. So I really like. He could be a small ball 5 because he is so switchable, but he's a bit of a developmental project just because the offensive game isn't there.
I love it. I mean, nowadays the bigs that can defend. I mean, you don't throw the ball down into the post to many bigs anymore anyway. You just let the guards and the forwards do their thing, but you want the big to protect it on the other side. So definitely. Are there any other second-round picks that you want to hit on before we wrap it up, DHack? Here, let's scroll through. Let me start at the top, and I'll just slowly scroll through. If you see a name that pops out, stop me.
I don't know if he's going to be on here. Oh, yep, he is. Number 54, Nemias. I don't even know his first name, but Kita, 7-foot center. I saw this guy play in college. He played in the Mountain West, Utah State. He was by far the best player, and he's 22 years old. Last year, he averaged about 15 and 10, 3 blocks per game, 3 assists, and a steal. He was pretty fluid for being a big. He got double teamed a lot just because he was that big in that conference, but he's a true rim protector. He's going to get blocks day one, and he can pass a bit as well. 70% free throw shooter, so you think that he might be able to develop some type of touch, but he didn't take any threes. He really worked in the post. I think he's a guy that's going to have an impact his rookie year wherever he goes, just because he knows how to play within his role and body. He's a solid defender. He's going to get some blocks at the NBA level, and he's got good size. So I think he's going to be a solid second-round pick. I wouldn't be surprised if he goes late in the first round to a team, but you're not going to get a stretch 5. You're again a true protect the paint defender who can work and develop some low post moves, which he's been working on in the Mountain West. He was the 2-time Mountain West Defensive Player of the Year. So I'm high on him, more so than some others. So if you're looking for a big that can protect the paint and, you don't want to waste a first round pick on something like that, Keita is the guy that I think you should really explore in the second round, if not late first.
I love it. Hey, DHack, that was impressive how you ran through those prospects, and I appreciate you coming on here. And I got to shout out your Twitter at Daniel J. Hackett, because we got to get those Twitter followers up. So if you're watching this and you got a Twitter, follow my boy DHack, because basketball is his passion. I love basketball, but, I've been doing a lot of football stuff, and you're on top of it. And I love interacting with you. You're the man. Anything you want to share with the audience?
No, man, I appreciate you having me on. And when I saw you getting the YouTube going, I was like, we got to get an NBA draft thing going, just because, like I said, we go back all the way to the Diago years with the Warriors. So thank you for having me. And I guess we'll stay tuned to see what happens very soon with what we're doing with pick 7 and 14.
I'm fired up. It's only a week out, so I'm excited. And I'll hit you up so we can discuss what the heck goes on. Before I end the stream, I gotta let my boy Shardall tell.
Make sure you like and subscribe.
Make sure you like and subscribe, everyone. All right, thanks for coming by. Catch you next time.